once we're live. Usually there's a little bit of a lag.
Let's see. I'll check on my end to see if we're live.
Yeah. Yeah, just looking now. Because usually there's like a couple of second delay before we're live. So that's why we just wait a little bit. Okay, it says we're live now.
We're live.
Okay.
Live.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to Batyards Finest, bringing you the finest Batman and Superman and more in pop culture. From Metropolis, I am Josh, and we'll go with order. Jerry, you.
I'm Jerry, your Green Lantern from Ola, and our special guest tonight is.
Yeah, we have the King of Cold himself, bretzels.empire. Just wanted to thank you for coming on, and if you wanted to give a little introduction to the audience at home, who you are and what you do.
I'm Edward, or I'm Bretzels Empire on my Instagram is Bretzels Empire. I do a in-depth Mr.Freeze that I've done at New York Comic Con. You've probably seen, anyone who's been there is painfully familiar with the different my different versions of Mr. Comic Con, starting from 1995, 2015 to up to the present, including last year. The cosplay has gone through numerous iterations and changes and things like that, and it's considerably evolved.
So
anyway,
what was your first Comic-Con? What was the first one you went to?
What happened is that I had my my daughter's friend. We had after she had my daughter had moved on and gotten married, her friend of hers, when she was like between boyfriends, we used to hang out all in high school and go to Comic-Cons and different things. And she we decided to do New York Comic Con, and she dressed up as a Harley. And I was actually looking at that time looking for, because my my kids had moved out, I was looking for a new hobby to do. And sitting around watching TV just wasn't cutting it at all. And I work as a computer programmer, and I needed to do something where I'm working with my hands and things like that. And my father had just retired from the machine shop business, and I'm a formally trained machinist, which on top of being a computer programmer. And so I sat there and said, well, what am I going to do? And I went to New York Comic Con with her, and she went as a Harley and got like all kinds of attention and all kinds of pictures and things like that. And I was like, man, I could actually do this quite well. And so I sat there and I talked to a couple of my friends and things like that. And I looked it up on the internet, and it sat there and said, Mr. Freeze, one of the most difficult cosplays to be done. And believe you me, it is, to do it well is an extremely major undertaking. Even as anyone who's seen that Harley Quinn, the animated series, and the Mr. Freeze and that, who will bitch about the suit and having to put up with the suit, is just is so dear to my heart. It's unbelievable, and all Mr. Freezes would actually appreciate that totally and completely. So I got my in 2016, I got my first Mr. Freeze cosplay together, and rented a van and brought all these kids to Mr. Freeze. And I got up to the front of the Javits Center and the east entrance of or the northern entrance of the Javits Center, and I put on my Mr. Freeze suit for like the first time in front of a crowd, and the entire crowd went silent, and they're like, "It's Mr. Freeze," and everyone started to cheer, and that was it.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
That's it. I'm doing this, and I was completely committed to it. And then what really, really, really spoiled me, though, was I got my first picture with one of my first Harlequins, which was like absolutely amazing. The whole Mr. Freeze is evolved, and the whole thing went through quite an evolution. Or actually, what happened? Well, the first thing that actually happened was I got one of the group children pictures with children, which is really like my thing, or anyone's thing who goes to Comic-Con, is getting pictures with kids. And some little Pakistani girl ran up to her parents and ran up next to me, and I had to kneel down, which was a new and more interesting experience with the suit, which weighs like 60 pounds. And I got a picture with her, and it was absolutely freaking awesome. And so, and then right after that, I went upstairs into the main hall where there's one of the main halls where there's selling stuff. And I got my first picture with a Harlequin. And I actually someone sat there and started playing music, and I started dancing around like an idiot. And that video there actually made Instagram. And one of my friends that actually pointed out to me and sat there and said, "Oh my God, you made the New York Comic Con Instagram thing," which is the first time that actually happened.
Oh, that's cool.
And I mean, that was it. I was like, I'm doing this full time, and I just got it together and started doing cons and really getting into the entire thing. But there has been like 1,000 adventures and different things have occurred. I've been to Katsucon, Comic Palooza, New York East Coast Comic Con. I've been to actually at Big Apple Con. I did really well and things like that.
Do you have a favorite con that you like to go to?
Oh, New York Comic Con, definitely. Oh, New York Comic Con. You've been to Comic Con?
Yeah, we have not been to New York Comic Con. We've been to.
It's on the list to go to.
I mean, the biggest one I went to was Boston Con. That's probably the biggest one I've been to myself, but never New York.
Well, New York Comic Con, because I'm really into the and everyone that's been on my Instagram, I'm really into the New York Comic Con cosplayers and things like that. And I've been friends with these people for like years and years and years. And New York Comic Con is like going on vacation it's going to a techno punk concert with like 200 of your friends, and they're trying to put you on television. And it's just absolutely positively the absolute greatest experiences I've had in my time. In 2018, I went with my father. Actually, the two pictures that you have on the thing that were both my father I always needed an assistant because I cannot see anything, or because my limited vision is extremely limited. So what happens is that I always needed I need someone to carry all the batteries, because I went through batteries like you wouldn't believe. And we can discuss the evolution of the suit later. But in 2018, I went to the 2018 Comic-Con with this kid named Brad, who was a completely awesome. He knew everything about the trivia, everything about what suits were actually how everything should be organized, things that I did not know. This kid knew, and he was the best assistant. I could not pay him enough. And he took all the correct pictures. He went to all the photo shoots and things like that. And we had the best time. Actually, it was such a great experience that it took me like 2 weeks to recover from the entire thing. I was just like emotionally strung out from the entire thing for like weeks after that. So
no, that's understandable, but it probably was a good high. Like, you're probably riding pretty high after that.
Yeah, it made the hours and hours and hours. Oh, the other thing too, my Mr. Freeze is a non-template Mr. Freeze, and I refuse to use a plant cushy as a dome. Okay, it's just like anyone using. I sit there and find the other. Plant cushy is this plastic thing that they put over plants so they don't get destroyed by a frost.
Oh, right.
And they use a lot of Mr. Freezes uses them as a dome, and I refuse to do that. I also don't have or mine doesn't have the goggles. I'm actually wearing a mask too, so I kind of refuse to do because I refuse to wear my first attempt at Mr. Freeze in 2015. I was supposed to put makeup on, and I've discovered how much of a pain. Unless you get someone who can put the makeup on for you, you can't do it yourself. I could not do it myself.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's always a huge one.
It was a huge that was a huge problem. In 2016, I had massive overheating problems. The Mr. Freeze cosplay, as I mentioned before in Holocorn, the animated series, is more of an environmental suit for going to cosplay conventions than it is like anything else, because cooling and heat dissipation, when you're at a con, it collects a lot of heat, and sweating. Anyone who does a Mr. Freeze does a lot of sweating. This year here and last year they had with the use it's putting a sealed dome in, which actually, if you see my pictures, I have an open dome and the top of it's open so the heat can just dissipate, dry it out, and I don't have any CO2 problems or things like that too. The problem was they had a new cosplayer there with an absolutely gorgeous Mr. Freeze called New York Cosplayer, which I got to give a shout out to him. And he solved what happens. He works in the TV industry, so he obviously had help with his cosplay. But his solution to the entire problem was to take the dome off of his head and carry it around. And then when he had pictures done, he would actually put it on then. And I was like, what a simple solution to that whole freaking problem. Just take the dome off
Yeah.
and carry it with you. It was like, oh my God, if I had only thought of this years and years. I had spent so much time doing, ventilation and getting the fans right and how I'm supposed to, or actually I did really, really like my latest solution to the problem. Is this still going? Can you? Anyway, and I really appreciated my my solutions to the problem. So
Oh, sorry about that. What? For some
I
reason,
think
my
the
phone
phone
kind of
dropped.
went dark. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Josh.
I don't know if Edward can hear us. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
you need to just call him back.
Yeah, we're gonna add Edward. Sorry about that.
Just our tech guy is off for the evening, folks. He's getting gains in at the gym. Tech guy, if you're listening, please come back. You're hired again.
Yeah. Yeah, this is really annoying stuff. Okay, I gotta switch out the whole. Seconds, guys.
Oh, great.
Okay, there he is.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, the phone accidentally dropped.
Okay.
Anyway, it must be my fault.
Okay, no, that's no problem at all. Sorry, sorry about that.
Don't worry about it. We have tech issues quite frequently.
I know. Yeah. Usually we have a tech guy, but he's not here today. So
No.
So we're going along. So it's okay. So as you were saying.
Yeah. Yeah, the problems with the Mr. Freeze suit was trying to overcome making changes to it that actually were so you didn't look exactly the same every year. To overcoming heating issues, suit issues, trying to I tried to move into like a steampunk version of the entire thing, which didn't really work out super incredibly well. And try to keep it fresh and doing it. And I'm planning on doing another super and putting in another one into a more modernized version of the entire thing. So,
that's really cool. So, like, you have different versions of the costume.
Yeah, I think I'm on my 14th dome, and I'm on the 5th version of the cosplay. So, though the top part of it is the dome and the top part of the cosplay has pretty much stayed the same. I've done different bodysuits, different guns. I have 2 major iterations of cosplay guns. One of them with moving parts and things like that. Actually, I went to. You guys are familiar with Katsucon at all?
I've heard the name float around.
I don't.
Yeah, what happens is what?
We haven't been there ourselves, but yeah, we heard of it.
Well, Katsucon is mostly anime. It's like 99% anime. I went to New York Katsucon, did an absolute awesome photo shoot with MK Cosplay, and one of my favorite photographer, John, who's done I've done all my photo shoots with, and And what happened is that I got videotaped like three times, and I made 3 music videos at KatsuCon, which is like just was unbelievably fortunate in that entire thing. So actually, and I most really attribute it to the gun because my gun had a bunch of moving parts inside of it that swirled around and things like that and looked extremely cool. So that actually worked out extremely well too. So yeah, and I've done a ton of photo shoots. But your first photo shoot is always the best, which I did with Lacey Terror, and even though she's still cosplaying and things like that too. Actually, I've done I did a at WinterCon, I did a photo shoot with her, which was actually my first, but we did one at East Coast Comic Con, which was just she did a completely awesome poison ivy, and that was like one of the best photo shoots that I actually have. So what happened is that my Mr. Freeze was actually becoming more and more over time, became more of a, oh geez, I want to do a photo shoot with a Harlequin or a Poison Ivy or a Catwoman or something like that,
Like
and have her as a focus, and I would just be like the background, or like just like be just a supporting character of the entire thing, because standing alone by which it made it a lot more fun, and you would just tell whoever you were doing the photo shoot with, oh, you're the focus of attention and things like that. You're the focus of the thing. We're doing what you want to do, and it just made the entire and girls who actually know how to pose and things like that were absolutely fantastic events and things like that. Though I did get into a photo shoot with a Harlequin who was not female once, and that was kind of interesting. And I just sat there and said, "Well, I wasn't told about this, and I figured it out." And it's like, oh, and it was kind of an interesting thing, and I just was like really cool about it and things like that too.
Did you find
But
out in the middle of the shoot, or like you knew beforehand?
no, no, no. I was looking. I was like I was talking to her slash him beforehand, and they wear a fake set of things on their chest,
I see.
and so they look like things, and they don't have the. You know how you have these clevises or these at the
Oh,
bottom
it
of your
doesn't.
neck?
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't there,
Okay.
and I was like,
Oh.
"What the frig?" And I was like, I look back and I'm like, just be really, really cool with it. That's all. And
Yeah,
it
you
turned
gotta
out to
roll
a
with it.
it turned into a fabulous event, and it was a great experience. And I kind of wish or anyway, and it was just a really interesting experience. So,
So, I noticed on your costume itself, like, it looks like the, spectacles, like, light up themselves. Do you put any lighting inside your visual, like, the eye sockets itself?
yeah, there's a lot of LED. And yeah, if you do Mr. Freeze, there's a lot of LEDs that actually do this.
Mhm.
Did you ever see or the Superman or the Thunderbirds when you were a kid, where they did with the puppets and things like that?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I've
you know
seen
how notice how the heads are a lot larger than the bodies?
Mhm.
Yeah, the head that my mask is actually vastly larger than my actual head. My
Right.
eyes are actually looking through the mouth. I actually went to Home Depot and got some Mylar that they put on windows so that you can make windows, one-way windows. And the eyes are actually mounted like right on top of my forehead. That's what actually made my Mr. Freeze, my version of Mr. Freeze, so cool, because I could sit there and put really super. Oh, the other thing too, for all those Mr. Freezes out there in the world, going 12-volt automotive, every automotive LED that's available to you is just absolutely the way to go. And to have one huge 12-volt battery that you're regardably going to have to carry around is the way to go too. So just go 12-volt, forget the 5-volt things, because the 12-volt will resist things a lot better. Yeah, those are two really huge car, like you use those like in a taillight in a car, and that's why they were super bright, and they worked out extremely well. That which was actually my signature thing. So
Oh, that's
anyway,
I mean, that's probably a good tip for for future
Yeah, that's a good tip for
cosplayers
anybody
out
who
there.
might need to do some tech, some
Yeah,
lighting.
that way. Also, what happens too with that, because I refuse to wear makeup, um, is that because then I had a mask over my face so that I didn't have to wear makeup at all, which is I am thankful for eternally. And then breathing and doing in my later versions of it, I actually figured out how to do breathing where I was blowing air directly into my face and then venting it straight up, which took years and years and years of development to get that absolutely positively correct. And so then it could actually relace out the top of my head. I've actually helped out quite a few other Mr. Freezes with their cosplay, saying how to avoid. Or they what they do is they put a super powerful fan inside of their Mr. Freeze to circulate the air effectively. But you're still only going to last so long before either your batteries run out or you're going to start overheating anyway. So.
Yeah, that's 100%
Hmm.
fair. When you first started out, did you attempt the makeup, or was it just
Yeah,
straight up?
my first Mr. Freeze, I did attempt to make up, but I couldn't do it. I didn't have anyone to do it for me, so I
Mhm.
didn't really. I was going to try to do the 1968 version of the Eli Wallach version of Mr. Freeze. I was going to do that, and I actually built all the different things, and but what happens is that I didn't attempt to put on the makeup beforehand, and I actually got all the way to the con, and I realized how much of a problem the makeup was going to be. So I sat there and said, I'm not doing it there. I ended up carrying my cosplay around for the entire day. But I actually did keep the boots, and the boots and the first iteration of my gun and the gloves. And what happens is the blue, and also what happens too, is I made a massive mistake in wearing a blue raincoat. I sat there and made I looked fabulous in this raincoat, totally and completely. But as soon as I got outside, I lasted about 5 minutes before I started massively overheat sweating, and I had to take the
Oh, I
entire thing off.
Oh
gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, but I look great, and I did so that I would pay money for any. I actually, what's really funny about my first cosplay is I have absolutely no pictures of it at all. Where later on, I would sit there and I would do pictures. My wife or my father would do. We would do test pictures beforehand, so I could actually tweak that year's Mr. Freeze and get it all together. So, which I learned from my mistakes.
I have a question. So I know you mentioned your first time like when you did a photo shoot, but what was it like, the first time you put the cosplay on after you finished it and you just kind of just went in? Were you nervous? Were you excited? Were you like a combination of anxious?
I was nervous. I was the first time that I did it, I was a little nervous and a little excited and things like that. Not like the years later. I mean, like 2017, 2018, 2019. I would get like really, really excited about the entire thing because I would get to see all my friends and things like that. But the first time I was a little excited, but I was mostly reserved. I was more curious about what was going to happen. I was more curious about what the effects, things that I would have to change, or and how to actually act to people, how to act in front of. I mean, I had never been videotaped before. I had never been on TV. I had never been interviewed. I've been interviewed hundreds. I made this. I don't know if you know this. I made the Sci-Fi Channel. Actually, what's really funny is
Oh
I made the
wow.
Sci-Fi Channel every year, and they actually broadcasted. I got the Mr. Freeze award. Actually, I still have it. It's right here. I have my Mr. Freeze Ice Award right here, and
Oh,
the Heart of Ice Award, and they had a whole huge interview that they did with me, and they broadcasted it on on the Sci-Fi Channel, and you could not talk to me for like a week after that because I was just like floating on a cloud. And
yeah.
it's like you couldn't do anything to me. Forget it. I was just like bad could happen to me at all. It was just really, really cool. So.
How did you inquire that? Did they just call you, or like how did they contact
No,
you
you were
then?
just walking. You go to Comic-Con and you just walk around, and you
Mhm.
will encounter people. I was there. I was also there, and a Russian TV crew actually out in the cosplay area got a hold of me and filmed me too. So I've had, God only knows where that actually ended up or what TV channel it ended up on,
Oh,
something like
wow.
that. But I was on, yeah, this Russian TV crew right in the middle
That's
of a
crazy.
photo
Yeah.
shoot, sat there and said, "Oh, we want to interview him." And I asked John, my photographer, um, it's I forget what his tag is, but anyway, and and he sat there and said, "Oh, it's okay." And they filmed this whole thing. I have no idea. I was supposed to hand something to someone else or something like that. I have no idea where this went or whatever actually happened with it. So, oh, yeah, as I mentioned, I've been through quite a few serious adventures too. So that was
So
actually
you,
pretty. I've been interviewed for numerous. Yeah, you just walk around. If you have a cosplay costume, that's really
Oh yeah.
cool. You walk around, people will take photographs, Getty images. I've got 1 year I had I think I broke my shoe or something. I had major problems with my my one of my one of my boots broke, and I just stood right in front of the entrance to the at Comic-Con on the second floor to the where they sell everything. And I mean, people were just walking up to me and interviewing me and getting filmed for different TV channels and newspapers and things. I've made the New York Times, Getty Images, the Sci-Fi Channel, things like that. It's just
That's
crazy.
amazing. And
Yeah,
yeah,
the important
you're
thing
pretty
though is
world
you have
renowned.
a non-template cosplay where it looks like you did it yourself, which was really my thing too. People that have, I mean, people have like, I've had friends of mine who have been really successful with template cosplays, but you tend to be more successful without doing a template cosplay thing. It's something that you associate with, really helps a lot too, which I identify with my Mr. Freeze cosplay a lot too. So
yeah. What made
That's
you pick Mr.
awesome.
Freeze out of all characters? What was the reasoning behind your choice
the reasoning behind that was mostly the reasoning behind that was mostly the my friends. What happened is that I asked a number of friends because I was looking into doing a hobby, and then I looked it up on the internet, and they sat there and said that, oh, it's an extremely difficult cosplay to do. And I was like, oh, geez, it's the most difficult one that you can do. Oh, that's what I'm doing.
there? Oh,
So
okay. Yeah.
and I
Okay,
was
so you
actually
enjoyed
really
the
familiar.
challenge
I
of
didn't
it.
want to do a Batman, or I mean, you go to Comic-Con, there's 50 Batman. There's people that have been doing Batman
Hmm.
that you'll never ever catch up with them. Mr. Freeze is an extremely unique. There's usually two or three of them. They're at Comic-Con every year. Um, and it's just it's just an extremely, because of actually the cooling issues are, and making it look good and making it light enough, and just having a good presence is just, it's not a simple thing to do. So
Definitely
it's to
not.
pull it off properly.
100%. Yeah. That's really
Wow,
cool.
that's
Mm.
amazing.
Do you have a favorite version of Mr. Freeze?
Oh, the Batman the animated series would actually
Yeah.
be, that's the one.
Yeah.
I If you could actually do the actually, and I have some thoughts about the Batman the animated series thing. I based my actually, I kind of based it on the Eli Wallach version, the 1968 version. Actually, my Mr. Freeze cosplay at its peak was based on the 1968 Eli Wallach Mr. Freeze, which was the boots and the gloves and things like that. The Batman the animated series, which is absolutely classic beyond belief, and then the 2003 version of Batman. There's a 2003 version of Mr. Freeze, which I actually combined all together. The problem with doing a 1968 version of Mr. Freeze is that number one is that the Batman the animated series version is, number one, he cannot see his feet. When you're walking around, a very
Mm.
important thing you discover is looking down and seeing your feet. Thus, what happens is that a true Batman the animated series Mr. Freeze cannot be done for two reasons. One, he can't really see his feet, and number two, they actually, when they draw him, they actually idealize his dome. His dome would actually be much wider, a much wider cone, and it would be actually much bigger. And from depending on what direction they actually do it. When they did a side shot, your head is actually much longer. The thing, so you could actually, in this, they actually did it the size he did, and as you can see from the New York cosplayer cosplay, because he did it very much along that line too. It's very long and narrow, so that it doesn't have to. So you can't turn your head from side to side, and it's impossible. What happens is that it's physically impossible to do a dome like that. It is, because either you're going to do one side or the other side. You understand what I'm saying? Because you
Right.
turn your
Yeah.
head to the side, the dome actually has to become a thing. You can't have this super narrow dome and then be able to turn your head from side to side.
You got to do the
It's
bat
physically
turn,
impossible.
basically. You got to do the Michael Keaton bat turn and just turn your whole body with
Yeah,
it.
you end up having to turn your whole body, and he would have to have someone leading him around, like they show him walking up and down stairs. That's impossible. You cannot run. There is no way Mr. Freeze can run up and down stairs and do it. You'll suddenly notice in the even though the Arnold Schwarzenegger version of Mr. Freeze, which I've actually seen in person too. I've actually been to Warner Brothers and I got pictures of me with that Mr. Freeze. There's no dome. He's actually has a thing, or like in Arkham, or was it Arkham, the TV show Arkham, the Mr. Freeze. Yeah, he has no dome. Because what happens is one, it's cooling issues, and two, he can't see his feet at all. I'm sure they actually attempted. I don't know if you saw have you seen Arkham at all?
I started Arkham. I never got around to finishing it.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Gotham or is there a show called?
Or Gotham? That's it, Gotham.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Gotham.
I seen bits of it. I seen the first two seasons.
Yeah, well, when they introduced Mr. Freeze, he did it initially. You had a space helmet dome, and they've soon discovered that the guy was under all those lights and things like that was melting, and then they went to a more of an open dome thing. They just skipped over they kind of just, you have the bottom of the dome, you don't actually have a complete dome. That's why I like my dome, because it's open. It looks. And the other thing, when you're doing a cosplay costume too, it's got to be for it's for taking pictures of, and actually also it's for only taking pictures from your front too. So what happened? What you got to do. It's photo. How it actually looks is really good, important, practical issue, and then being practical and things like that too.
100%.
So.
Do you have a lot of pockets in your cosplay itself? Like, I know it's important to have pockets and places to store things, like your water or whatever you need.
Well, I had to have an assist. Yeah, water is a huge issue. I agree with that. And the other thing about going to my Mr. Freeze too is it had to fit through a door, and I had to be able to go to the bathroom in it too, because I wasn't taking it off in the middle of the thing. And I could actually be given bottles of water and drinking too, which actually were practical things too, because I actually figured out how tall the doors were to the bathrooms in New York Comic Con, so I could just barely fit through the door, walking through the door. Because I was wearing a bunch of stilts too, so I'm actually like 5-6 inches taller, which is that's a whole issue in itself. Is wearing a 60-pound cosplay on lifts is just, I mean, we could do a whole episodes just on those issues there. So the boots itself.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine like the strain of the weight and trying to balance yourself on top of that.
Yeah. I'm amazed that I never actually tripped I mean, I have tripped over children quite a few times. I've tripped over, those barriers where they block a building. I've run right into them. But I have never actually tripped and fell on the ground and things. I've actually dropped my a couple of times, and in my early version of the domes, I've actually accidentally, while trying to put on the cosplay, accidentally dropped it and broke it. But the early versions were extremely heavy, and there was numerous attempts to try to lighten. The whole thing was attempted to numerous times, was completely rebuilt just in the process of trying to make it as light as possible. So which proved its own problems and issues and things like that too, and getting the proper netting for the neck so that people can't see your neck. And the other thing is, with the current dome too, because I have most of the balancing. Actually, another major problem you had was balancing that my dome on top of my head and getting it balanced properly was and getting it so that I would actually stay on top of my head was actually a really huge problem too, because you would sit there and put it on, and then part of the frame of it actually broke once, and the thing was completely scrunched down on my forehead, and I had to sit there and walk around for several hours with
Okay.
this thing. It was just really, and I was just constantly shoving it back on my. I would walk around with the face down, and then have to slide the head back up too, which is always a problem as well too. And then also I was running mostly on 9-volt batteries and things like that. Where that's why I went over to those really huge two huge hurricane the hurricane flashlights.
Mhm.
There are these
Oh,
really
those like
big
big
square batteries.
spotlights.
Yeah, the
Yeah, the
huge
spotlight things. Yeah,
spotlights.
they have a
Yeah.
huge square. Yeah, I took two of them, ran them in parallel, and ran the entire suit off of that. And it would run. I would go through a set of those every cosplay convention, which are heavy, and that would actually. And then I was actually using them as counterweights on my helmet to keep the front of my helmet up, so my neck. It was like a huge balancing act too. But that actually worked out really well. And then I didn't have where the batteries would die. The thing that was really annoying too, it's like you would have an assistant with you, and when the LEDs in your eye, the battery would run out, and the thing would shut down, and I would end up with a bunch of pictures where only one eye was actually working.
Oh, right,
So
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's
yeah,
what makes
so
a costume too, is like that. I mean,
what?
that's a big effect that adds to the costume.
Yeah,
And
it's
when
both the lights have to be working. So
mhm.
it was that was actually, yeah, that was a really that when it thing. Um Actually, I had that problem. One of them died when I was doing a cosplay photo shoot with the Crimson Quinn, who I love and cherish the Crimson Quinn, and she is definitely. I would shout out for my friend the Crimson Quinn, who is the most awesome Harlequin cosplayer that is my favorite. I mean, there's other ones that have done different things and things like that, but she's really good. She just got back from Katsucon, and she did really extremely well. So anyway, I would also
Are
like
they
to give a shout out to my friend Carousel, who is now, I don't know if he's on Netflix. She's doing The Perfect Match. I don't know if you guys watch Netflix at all.
I'm on
I
Netflix. I haven't seen that advertised to me yet, but I'll keep a
mhm,
lookout for it.
Yeah, it's yeah, I did a photo shoot with a girl on that Carousel several years ago, and I'm still in touch with her, and love her show and things like that too. Yeah, the other thing too is you meet a whole bunch of people, and I mean they become people over time and things like that too. So I have tons of friends all over the world and things like that too.
yeah,
So
no, 100%. That's why we like Comic Cons. When we go, we usually do interviews and like talk to other cosplayers and different artists and everything. Basically, kind of what we're doing now, but
Mhm.
more on a you know, we have a microphone set up and everything, and it's really cool. They'll collaborate with everyone, and we get to talk to a lot of great, interesting people, such as yourself. And it's really a good big collaboration. Every time I go to a con, it's always we always meet someone new and make new friends. It's great.
yeah, that's
Now
the
I
whole
have a
thing.
two-part question. Oh, go ahead. Finish saying
Go
what you were
ahead, go
saying.
ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask. You mentioned you're a non-template cosplayer, and you mentioned the steampunk variation you had for Mr. Freeze. Our tech guy wanted to know what issues you encountered with your steampunk version of Mr. Freeze. And then my follow-up question is, do you have any more like original designs or alteration and variants you wanted to try to do going in the future?
Well, all right. This the problem with the steampunk um Mr. Freeze was getting a seamstress to actually work with me. All right. The primary problem with the steampunk Mr. Freeze is that my Mr. Freeze has a belt. I actually carry a backpack on the back of my Mr. Freeze, and I have a belt. So I was trying to wear like a long, like Victorian coat, but long Victorian coats don't actually go really well with belts at all. And I went through a huge development process of getting, what actually it's like, and getting the fluffs on your sleeves and things like that, getting a very Victorian look to the entire thing. But then as soon as I put my Mr. Freeze thing on it and I put on the belt, I mean, it's like destroyed the whole look of the entire. You didn't have this really flowing look to the entire thing. And the other problem I ran into, I mean, you do a ton of development on these things and you have really no idea where they're actually going. And I made this special pair of shoes, which I put a huge amount of time into so that they could actually fit over my feet and things like that. And they ended up looking like I was a clown instead of looking like the really cool Victorian shoes that they actually were. They looked like clown shoes. And that actually didn't work out really well. I looked more like a clown, and I wasn't really happy with it. And I also wanted to do is have a cane, and so I could sit there and I wanted to make the top of it look like a weapon, which in development looked absolutely positively fabulous. But when you in the lights and the different demonstration, and I got it to flash and everything like that properly with all the different moving parts, but when you actually took that out and went into the cosplay area, it looked ridiculous, and I was just like, this is, I mean, I had a great time. I got some really great pictures with a Harlequin out there who's Quinzel something or another, and who actually stopped following me, which was really annoying. And what happens is that I did have some actually pictures. I had some really good time with the entire thing, but in my personal opinion, that particular cosplay did not work out really, really well. I did a gangster one before that for a custom dress, for a group shoot, which was absolutely positively fabulous. And I made a Thompson machine gun for that, and that one there actually worked out really, really well. I was actually the Joker's bodyguard in the entire thing because I couldn't really sit down at the table or anything like that, and it was all done in this really dark room, and my red eyes actually really played into that whole thing really well. So my future plans are to do a more, in fact, I've been collecting pictures of it, doing a more modern cosplay using getting rid of the existing one and using more foam, for more of a foam based cosplay costume that looks more like a traditional Mr. Freeze too. So, or there's more modern versions. I'm going to swing back more towards the traditional Mr. Freeze look. So with the big thing on your belly, the lights and everything like that, and have a lot more LED, have it like a lot more LED-ish done. So
Oh, that'll be cool. Almost like
I look forward to seeing
Darth Vader's control panel or something like that.
Yeah, I would actually like to do. I mean, it's too bad. I always wanted to do a cape, but the cape thing kept getting shot. My wife wouldn't let me do it, and it gets like, oh, it doesn't look right. Mr. Freeze doesn't have a cape, but I would love to do something as
the
with
cape
a cape
makes the man.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys ever seen. Are you heavy metal fans at all?
Yeah.
I'm not big into metal.
I am. I would say more our third party Matt, who's not here with us. He's probably the biggest metalhead out of all of us.
So.
Yeah. The cosplay completely changing format is I would like to do Tyler as he appeared right at the end of Heavy Metal 2000, which I think wouldn't actually be that difficult, and I could actually do instead of having red eyes, I would have green eyes, and that would actually work out extremely well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, do you have other cosplays in the works besides Mr. Freeze, or are you solely just Mr.
No,
Freeze?
I've actually the problem with Mr. Freeze and after 2018, the really coolness of the entire, what happens is you get like you get a really cool cosplay, you get one I don't know if you guys are on Instagram and you watch Jamal, another shout out, Jamal James, who is one of the greatest cosplayers there is. Is probably the top high-end cosplayer at New York Comic Con and Katsucon and things like that. But he changes his costume every year, and they all look real. Some of them are really bad, and some of them are really good. And he insists on going to the cosplay contest every year, which usually the person with the biggest sewing project usually wins the entire thing. But yeah, changing it every year is actually a really, really good idea. Yeah, that's why I've been considering getting away from Mr. Freeze and doing something else, and just developing the entire doing. But what happens is that it will be if I do Tyler from Heavy Metal 2000, I mean, it's a very simple, very basic. It has a cape. It has I can just buy a Darth Vader cape. Actually, I could probably buy a Darth Vader pair of boots, cape. I mean, most of his a black outfit, have black pair of pants, black pair of shoes, and make all the horns and things. Oh, the face mask would be the most important, which looks like a lizard. I don't know if you guys seen the movie. It's a lizard, a dead lizard on top of his head. And I think I could actually do that all really, quite simply, and it wouldn't take that long.
Yeah, no, that would definitely be pretty
that sounds
cool.
like it'd be great to see.
And I know, like, Mr. Freeze is part of your branding now, so I know it's a hard slope to kind of like switch cosplay.
Yeah.
So I understand.
I know John, my photographer. I sat there, and one year it's like, oh, I want to sit there and do a Warhammer 40K thing, and he's like, no, you've got to do a Mr. Freeze.
Right.
So it's like it's like such a bad idea, so yeah, oh man, I forgot what it's JMW photographer underscore 50 JMW underscore photographer underscore 59. And I've done like 10 or 12 photo shoots with him, so, and he's really, really good.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely give him a follow. Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to that. That's really cool. That's cool that you have you've linked up to like different photographers and different cosplayers, because that's like what makes the photo shoots definitely more interesting and dynamic. Is like the play on different characters and different models. The photographer themselves. For sure.
Oh, the bread and butter of any high-end cosplayer is their photographer. Totally and completely. That's where the money's. All right, there's no money. I mean, cosplay is about art appreciation, technical and artistic achievement, and getting photos with children. Is what it's all about. So, but yeah, he's got a real feel for how to do photo shoots, how to get everything organized, how to get people to work together and get what he wants out of the entire thing. He's an extremely experienced individual. So I mean, like the last cosplay photo shoot I did with him was at an abandoned estate in Long Island, and we did it with a Harlequin, or a poison ivy, who was absolutely positively fantastic. It was name I forget off the top of my head. And I sat there and said, I took a rose away from her, and I said, I'm going to sit there and hold this rose out to you. And we wanted to see what she would do. And she turned around and sat there and gave me the look of rejection. Oh, I completely reject, instead of like sitting there saying, oh, I'm going to fall in love with Mr. Freeze, completely rejected me. And it was like the most epic photo shoot that I actually think is just she's just rejecting Mr. Freeze. And it was like such a surprise, and it was such a great idea. So, and she just did it all by herself too. So it was really good. Cool. That actually doesn't really top the Lacey Terror one with Poison Ivy, which is just absolutely the best. So,
I wanted to ask, who is your favorite Batman out of all the Batmans? Do you have a favorite?
Adam West.
Okay.
So, Christian Bale is definitely Christian. Actually, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm really extremely the one with the Joker with Christian Bale is absolutely one of the. It's all right from the movies. Sing would be Christian Bale, but yeah, Adam West would definitely be the one. But then what happens is that after that would be the guy from Batman the Animated Series, whatever his name, who just died.
Kevin Conroy.
Kevin Conroy.
Yeah, Kevin Conroy.
Yeah. Kevin Conroy is definitely my favorite out of all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I grew
live
up more
actions
with
are
the
different.
Kevin Conroy.
Yeah.
I actually met one of the not the first Catwoman. I actually got a picture with her, just showing, kneeling and appreciating her, and she loved my cosplay costume. And they had a Warner Brothers guy with them who actually designed the Mr. Freeze from Batman the Animated Series, and they
Oh,
sent a
really?
bunch of
Wow.
pictures.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And that was actually really, really cool too. Oh, you have no idea when you go to a con who you're going to run into, who you're going to see. I've met so many people, it's unbelievable. The guy from what was his name from Blade Runner, or who just died too. I met him. That was
Oh,
absolutely,
I can't think of his name.
yeah, I know what you're talking about too. He
yeah.
played the
He was really,
recluse.
oh, he was seriously insanely impressed with it was legitimately impressed with the cosplay. So that was a real that was like another seriously validating moment in the entire thing too. So that was actually a lot of fun as well too. So,
Man, you're a
and I
regular
actually made
superstar. You've met
the
so many
trip.
people.
What?
I was just saying, you're a regular superstar. You've met so many people and done so much.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I know what I mean. Yeah, I mean, if you sit there and make I should, yeah, it's done. I've met a lot of different people. A lot of them really appreciate, it showed quite a bit of appreciation. I've had hundreds and hundreds of pictures with children, or little kids and things like that, and harlequins and old people and dogs and things like that too. So, and I follow, and as you probably well aware, on my Instagram, I follow these people. I follow them to MGM. I have friends of mine that go to MGM, or as I mentioned before, Katsucon, Comic Palooza, Los Angeles, or the one out in San Diego. I mean, I'm just fully following them. They get lost and they need some help, and it's like, oh, this person. I actually don't know where some of the people are inside the thing and help out with different things too. And I've actually become I have another friend of mine, Yogaba, whose Instagram I can't possibly, is a very long and difficult thing. And I actually went to her with her a couple of times to Anime New York, and was her photographer and followed her around. And that I was really kind of jealous during the entire thing, because I really wanted to be the center of attention, and it was actually rather difficult. But on the other hand, I knew what cosplaying do, how photographs should actually be done, what to actually do, what to videotape, and things like that. And being on the other side of the camera was actually a very new and interesting experience for me. And we turned out to be an extremely good experience. It's definitely a lot of fun and things like that too. So, for her, I'll help her out. Or, I mean, there's various cosplayers that actually called up. I would sit there and help totally and completely. But a shout out to Yoga Pa. She's definitely super insanely awesome too. And I wish you would get her. I actually made her a Harley pop gun that actually cocked and would actually pop out the cork too. So that was
Oh,
actually
that's
kind of
That's
cool.
neat.
cool.
Yeah, that's nice that you make props for your fellow cosplayers, because yeah, that's really neat that you do that. I would like to see that prop gun. That sounds pretty fun.
Yeah, yeah, I've done a couple of pieces for a couple other cosplayers and things like that. I have, like, it's cosplay in my style of cosplay. I mean, I'm not
Mhm.
doing the dips and the different other.
Mhm.
There's an endless amount of different things that you can actually put into the entire thing. My version of the entire thing is, like, I use a lot of wood and plastics, and direct. I'm good at shaping plastics and using motors and LEDs and things like that. But it's probably a bit rough, and probably won't. Actually, no, that's not true. I actually did. I almost won a cosplay contest at East Coast Comic Con, and they pointed at me that I was actually going to win, and I let him point at the girl next to me, think that she actually won, and I let her go and take the entire thing, because I didn't really feel like winning the entire thing. But it was kind of a funny, yet another funny experience. So
Yeah,
So
100%.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool that you do that.
I don't really the cosplay contest. I did like one, and it's just not. There's too much fun. I just am not into them, and I don't think that there's really. It's more. I have more fun socializing and getting pictures taken and things
Yeah,
like
I can
that.
Yeah,
understand
that's
that
understandable.
because the cosplay contest that probably takes what about an hour, you would
Yeah,
say
you're
something
sitting
like that.
around for like an hour,
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, because
and
you
you
want to
don't
be
really
moving
gain
around and
anything.
talking to people. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's always more fun going out and meeting new people because sometimes you'll learn a trick they did for their cosplay that you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. And it helps you out in the long run and takes like 2 steps out of the process of getting something together.
Do you have other Comic Cons coming up in the future? So, like, do you know what your next con is going to be?
The Comic Con season is actually what I would like to do is go back to Big Apple Con down in New York City. I'm a huge Big Apple Con down at the um, the Roosevelt Hotel. Actually, I think they moved it out of the Roosevelt Hotel shut down and they moved it someplace else. I actually had Big Apple Con did a PSA. Oh, actually, what's really funny, another funny story. During COVID, they they're reopening at Big Apple Con and they did a PSA about wearing a mask and things like that. And they used my cosplay as a picture in the entire thing too,
Oh,
which was
That's
really?
absolutely
great.
Oh, that's
hilarious.
cool.
Yeah.
Like a sign of like this is what you should be wearing.
Yeah, this is what you should be wearing. You should look
Yeah.
like him over there. Yeah, I want to go. Well, I did New York. I'm doing New York is I'm doing New York Comic Con every year from now on until I cannot physically get, until I die. I hopefully my grandchildren will be wheeling me there in a wheelchair so that I can go there. And I'll bring my gun, you know, and do that. And yeah, I'm Big Apple Con. I'm not traveling across the country. I mean, I'm not like going to Comic Palooza, or I'm not. The thing about cosplay too is like you can put a lot of money. You can put a lot of money into it, and you get very. The thing is that at the end of the day, you end up with a bunch of great pictures and a bunch of great stories and a credit card that's completely maxed out. And my wife has not found that very acceptable at all, especially, so what happens is that I can't really I'm going to New York Comic Con and do some of the more local cons, but I'm not going to be doing, you won't see me out at San Diego or anything like that. So
Right. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, New York is still like a really big Comic Con. That's
Yeah,
that's
like
that's a huge one.
the thing, well, as I said before, there's hundreds. I see all my friends, and you get to see everybody and talk to everyone and see how you're doing. It's just like a huge party. It really, or actually, it's like as I mentioned before, it's like a techno punk concert.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. No, 100%. I um I also wanted to ask you what are your thoughts on the Arnold Schwarzenegger Mr. Freeze? Do you love it? Do you hate it? What do you think?
Oh, I have the Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't think what they were supposed to do was have one of my favorite actors of all time, who I actually met, is Patrick Stewart. And I've actually he actually during it was he actually touched, I don't know if you started the Star Trek where they had the first starship, and they actually him and Data reached up and touched it, and he instead of me shaking his hand, he just touched me, which was always really really meaningful. And I think that he would have done the problem is he was doing like 3 movies that year, and if he had done Mr. Freeze, he would have done justice to Mr. Freeze instead of being Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger was there. He was acting extremely silly during shooting. And what happened, Mr. Freeze is extremely painfully, I mean, absolutely positively serious beyond freaking belief. And doing him any other way, he's not a silly character. He's a real serious character. He's deadly logical. He's very extremely black and white and things like that. And also, if you actually watch the movie too, most of the scenes where he actually appears, it's actually a double. It's not actually him. His
Oh, I
Mr.
didn't know
Freeze,
that.
oh,
yeah, his Mr. Freeze costume, though, the gun's really heavy, and he is really heavy. I mean, I mean, it's just like I had problems with I mean, the diamonds things was actually correct. Irma Thurman was absolutely positively fabulous in the entire thing. But I think he was miscast, and I think
Definitely.
that Patrick Stewart or some other more serious actor who's a bit smaller and things like that would have actually just done better. You know, it's like when they did the X-Men movie recently, and they did it with Apocalypse, and it was some little itty, whatever his name is, who's a absolutely fabulous actor. Who's I forgot what his name is, but what happened? Like Apocalypse is not a
Yeah.
little bitty itty bitty guy. He is big. He is huge. He's
Yeah.
intimidating. He's like it's like being
Oscar
introduced. I
Isaac.
mean, like during the Lord of the Rings, he's like Smog. You know, you're if you're in his presence, you're in danger. You're going. You know, you're probably more than likely not going to survive the entire thing. So I think that he was actually more miscast. I mean, the guy from Gotham I thought, did an absolutely fantastic job too. I mean, they don't really, but my heart always goes out to the Mr. Freeze from Batman the Animated Series, who I think was or Gene Simmons actually did some of the. I think Gene Simmons voiced it or something like that, or one of the later movies and things like that, which I thought
Oh,
was
I didn't know
no,
that.
that wasn't Gene Simmons. It was that guy from Star Trek who looks a lot like Gene Simmons, who a different actor. And I think he did. I mean, he's big, he's imitating, he's got the voice, you know, and things like that. And I think that if they had taken him, even though he was older, and did him as Mr. Freeze, would have been, you know, definitely better too. But as you're well aware, that show almost destroyed the Batman franchise as it is too. So
Right.
anyway,
Yeah. Did I didn't know that Patrick Stewart was in line to play Mr. Freeze. And so like that was their
I
first
never would
choice.
have guessed that.
yeah, it's that would have been a pretty epic. I think it would have been epic beyond freaking belief, because he would have been really serious. They would have forced him to be really serious, and it would have been like a lot colder, and it would be, you know, he would have been a lot more merciless and things like that too. And he would have done, you know, actually, what happens? Mr. Freeze kind of goes back and forth and things like that too. Anyone saw the movie Heart of Ice? I don't know, the animated movie Heart
Mhm.
of Ice. I mean,
Mhm.
that is like what Mr. Free, if you could take that and you know, and make that Patrick Stewart, that would have actually made a much better, you know, something along those lines would have made a much better movie. So,
I definitely agree.
and the
Um
Bane character wasn't really, I mean, he should have actually had a speaking part. That movie was just incredibly poorly done still. I mean, unlike
Yeah.
the previous Batman movie, the first Batman movie that they did during the 80s was absolutely fantastic too. So,
Yeah, that's my favorite out of that's my favorite personal Batman movie. But yeah, I could see if they're gonna keep Arnold, like make Arnold Bane, you know, and Patrick Stewart, Mr. Freeze. I think that could have worked if they
Yeah, I
did it
think
yeah,
that would
that
have
or if
worked a
they
lot
actually
better.
had I mean, if like if you could take Arnold Schwarzenegger and give him a classical uh you know, a classical education, you know, so that he did like classical English theater, you know, if he had done like Hamlet and then did Mr. Freeze, and where you
way.
actually have that seriousness about him, or Macbeth or something like that, and sit there and say, this is how, you know, like if you took a character who could actually pull off Macbeth and then have him do Mr. Freeze, would have been
Right.
so much better too. So,
Yeah. I can't really blame Arnold for the production. I think it's more the director
yeah.
Yeah.
that made that movie, you know?
I think, you know, it is the director. I mean, a movie is a lot like, you know, it's a cloud, it's like a village and things. They don't know
Yeah,
where I mean,
100%.
it's just like when you make a
Yeah.
cosplay costume, you have no idea where it's going, what it's going to do. Everything isn't fabulous, you know, absolutely fabulous and things like that too. So,
100%,
Yeah, our tech guy, Matt Crispy, he loves that band, and we give him a lot of jokes about that from
yeah.
time to
Right,
time.
right.
So it's
that
just,
is true too.
I don't, you like who you like in a movie, but sometimes, you got to admit a certain portrayal is not good, and they should have went with the first or the second choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Edward, I really wanted to thank you for coming on. Jerry, I didn't know if you had any final questions you wanted to throw out or anything.
Um, No, because before I even could really ask the majority of mine, he just, answered everything in the greater detail. So I just want to thank him for that.
Yeah. No, Edward, I definitely want to thank you for coming on. This was a real blast. And if you have any other fellow cosplayers that would love to be on the show or like to be on the show, definitely send them our way because we would love to have them on.
All right, I would like
Yeah,
to
this
give
was
some
great.
last shout outs. The Frozen Sith, who does an absolute excellent Mr.Freeze. The New York cosplayer, I already mentioned him. The imposter cosplay, he does even though he uses goggles, he does really, really extremely well. The Cosplay Youth Legion, the Miss, whose name I can't even pronounce. And Blue, and a long time ago, a friend of mine, Blue Kirby Cosplay, did a cosplay thing that was absolutely family too. All right, one last thing: being super friends, one show at a time. You guys are completely awesome, and I look forward to actually listening to this entire thing. So,
Yeah, no,
all
I
right,
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank you.
coming on. Yeah, if you ever want to come back on, definitely definitely let us know.
just let me
But
know.
yeah,
Yeah,
awesome.
we'll let you meet our tech guy.
Yeah, exactly. We'll make Matt come on next time. So,
All right, I'll talk to you later.
all right, thank you so much, Edward.
All
Thank
right,
you.
I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.